Coming right up, and we'll be sure to bring you all the details then. Hello and welcome to the legendary Circuito de Jerez. We're in the heart of the Andalusia region in southwestern Spain. The area of Jerez became famous for sherry and horses, but since the 80s it's been all about motorcycle racing thanks to this absolutely thrilling circuit. As you can see, 13 wonderful corners all holding the name of some wonderful Spanish champions: Crivier, Pons, Lorenzo, Aspar, all sorts of riders. We're here this weekend for round 7 of the FIMC v Repsol Moto3 Junior World Championship. There's huge amounts of talent. Lots of those top riders are also riding in the full World Championship. So all of these guys are bike ready, bike fit, as we were saying just before. We have 40 guys on the grid. The grid for race 1 has been turned on its head due to some penalties, so we'll be sure to run you down all of those. My name is Harry Lloyd, and joining me here today is someone who has actually been on a Moto3 bike quite recently, more used to racing 600s. Joining me is Dakota Momola, son of Randy Momola. Now, Dakota, you were out actually testing the Peugeot/Mahindra Moto3 bike in Aragon just after the World Championship round. Now, why don't you tell us what it's like to ride one of these bikes? Because from the outside, they look really fun to ride, but, you know, no offense, you're not the smallest guy. You're definitely more used to riding a 600, so it must have been a bit of a challenge to get tucked in there.
Well, like you say, you know, I've been racing 600 for the past 5 years, so my body weight, everything is for a 600 class. So when they actually, my dad actually, you know, texted me or called me or something and told me, hey, you know, you gotta, I have a test set up for you. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty fun. Like, which Moto2 bike, or, you know, which, he's like, well, no, it's actually a Moto3 bike. And I was like, wait, you mean them little toys? Like, no way, are you serious? But, you know, immediately I was excited about it because my dream was always to ride a Moto3 bike. It's, I think, a lot of kids' dreams. And I got to ride, like you said, the Saxo Print Peugeot Mahindra bike after the Aragon, you know, race in MotoGP. So first expressions, yes, it was tiny, but not as tiny as what I thought. But I had a blast on it. Yeah. I had such a great time on it. I felt like it was a little toy. I'm going to admit to this in front of the people. I did stall it twice going out of the garage. I don't know if it was a mixture of nervousness but it was because the first gear on the bike's really long. It could go up to 125k an hour, wow, which we're not used to on the R6 600. So you really have to rev the bike to get out of the garage. And the team were all, you know, laughing about it, but it was great. I mean, and another thing also, you gotta constantly shift the bikes. I was over revving it the first few laps, and it's because, you know, they're such a small, powerful bike that you gotta keep changing gears and reducing. So that's why you see all these great battles and Moto3, and also weight is such an important factor in this class. The bikes are so light, and, you know, most of the kids are 16 in this class now. They're starting so young, so it's great. It's great. I think it's a great class because you actually get to see real talent, young talent. It's all about corner speed in this class, and tucking in. That's one thing the team told me to do, is always tuck in.
Always tuck in. So here we have the man on pole, number 23, Raul Fernandez. Now, he won't be on pole for the second race because, as I said a bit earlier, there have been a huge amount of penalties here this weekend. So Karel Hanneke, he did set the fastest time in qualifying, a 1:46.8, but Karel Hanneke was a bit overly ambitious, shall we say, in the last race in Portimao and took out 2 riders with one of his passes. So because of that, Karel Hanneke has been demoted to 5th place. So now Raul Fernandez moves up to 1st, and just behind him will be Marcos Ramirez, who had originally qualified in third place. Marcos Ramirez is the main title rival to Lorenzo Della Porta. There he is, number 42. He's another one who has been racing in the World Championship. He rides a KTM here, but in the World Championship, he's been on a Mahindra, the Platinum Bay Real Estate Mahindra, and he's been getting some pretty okay results. He was 18th in Brno. He's had a couple of DNFs, and the last time out, he was 27th in Aragon. So, you know, definitely lots of bike time for him. So he's now starting second. There are actually 4 riders in mathematical contention for the championship.
That's great.
We still have 100 points on offer, 2 races here and 2 races in Valencia. So there is Della Porta, Ramirez, Kaito Toba, number 32, who will be lining up in third place, and then also Raul Fernandez in pole position. He's 96 points behind, so he really needs a bit of bad luck for the other guys, but, you know, mathematically it could happen there. So as we were saying, third place on the grid, Kaito Toba. He had qualified in 6th place, but due to all the penalties, he's now up in 3rd. There's a lot of rumours going around about this guy. Seems like he could be in the World Championship next year. Maybe, it seems almost certainly on a Honda, maybe with the Drive M7 team,
Asia, yeah.
maybe with the Honda Team Asia team run by Tadayuki Okada. So it definitely looks like he has a bright future ahead of him.
So yeah, this is you know, that Asia Cup. You know, the Asia Cup's becoming so big now because they're trying to bring a lot of Asian, you know, all these Japanese and all these, you know, like I said earlier, all these different riders in the championship, and it's what it really needs, and it's lacking a bit. And all these new Asia Cups, and, you know, the Red Bull Rookies is another great, you know, little championship to bring young, different style, crazy riders, because we're all, everyone thinks we're crazy. You know?
Speaking of crazy, that man that you just saw there, Lorenzo Della Porta, he's definitely a bit aggressive. As we said, currently the championship leader. He's racing for Valentino Rossi's Moto3 team full-time in the World Championship. Had some mixed results, but, you know, he's definitely really familiar with that KTM. We'll be on a Mahindra next year. Here is probably the craziest of them all, Karel Haneker, 5th place on the grid. As we said, he had qualified on pole position. His time would have actually put him 5th on the World Championship grid, and the time he set this weekend was a full second faster than his time from qualifying when he was racing back in the World Championship earlier this year on a Mahindra. So definitely
kind of miss his long hair. Remember that, those days?
I remember seeing the Snapchat of when when he got shaved after the season last year. Here's another guy who's racing in the World Championship, Albert Arenas. He had an incredible race here last year, played it to perfection to take victory ahead of Bulega and Juan Mir. He'll be moving up to the championship full-time next year with the Aspar Mahindra team, so a factory Mahindra ride from him alongside Lorenzo Della Porta. And Arenas is definitely one to watch this weekend.
He was my teammate with Kenny.
Yeah?
Kenny Noyes had a team, and we were racing as teammates. So he's a great young talented rider. And
he seems a very intelligent rider as well. Always
he
thinking about
keeps
things.
calm, and I wish him the best next year with that team Aspar, who's will be the, you know, I think they'll be supportive. They're the factory supportive Mahindra bikes.
They're the big Mahindra team.
So
speaking of Mahindra, here is one of the factory Mahindra riders here. Like so many manufacturers, Mahindra does have a factory team here to help with development. Since the last round in Portugal, the world has sort of exploded for Stefano Manzi. He raced from 34th on the grid to 4th in Silverstone. An absolutely incredible ride. He signed for the VR46 Academy, so he's now out there training with Rossi on the ranch, riding 600s. Here's another man who has had an incredible time since the last race, Ayumu Sasaki. He was crowned the Red Bull Rookies Cup champion last time out in Aragon. He clinched that championship with 250 points, 4 victories, and only finished off the podium twice the entire season. Here's another one, a lot like Toba, who's been rumoured for a couple of those teams in the World Championship. So get yourself acquainted with that name, because I think we could see him, and he's a very, very fast kid. Here is the second of those factory Mahindra bikes, Marco Bezzecchi, another one of those VR46 riders. He's done a couple of wild cards alongside Mans. He had some pretty solid results, and, you know, getting inside that top 10 more and more here in the Sev. And Bezzecchi's another one who's been around for a little bit. He's not the youngest guy on the grid, but certainly a path ahead of him. Some rumours about where he'll be going next year, maybe World Championship on a Mahindra again, but again, a lot of that is still unknown. And
here's another old ex-team of mine,
yeah?
KRP, Bradley Smith actually had this team in the 125 when I raced in 125 BSB. So we were racing Hondas at the time.
Yeah,
so
Racing Steps Foundation.
Yes.
A huge amount to help young British riders. Here's a very young rider, just 15 years old, Rory Skinner. He had 2 incredible rides in Aragon in the Red Bull Rookies. He was unfortunately knocked off, sent wide, and then he raced from dead last to finish 3rd in the first race. And
they're helping John McPhee in the World Championship.
Yeah, and then they're helping John. John and Rory, great friends, both Scottish. So whenever they're talking, I cannot understand a word they're saying.
No, me neither.
But as long as they can. Tony Arbolino for that 58 Squadra Corsa team. That team will be moving to the World Championship, obviously run by Paolo Simoncelli. Another team looking to bring through young Italian talent. And the hot rumour is that Arbolino will be one of those 2 riders moving up to the World Championship. Tony Arbolino is currently 10th in this championship, 50 points. He scored 2nd in Barcelona. That's been his only podium, but he has been in contention a fair few other times. And here is the teammate of Marcos Ramirez, Jared Ryu. He's been moved up a couple of spots. 1 spot by all the penalties around him. In total, there were 5 penalties for guys being slow on the racing line, plus that penalty for Karel Hanneke for his somewhat dangerous riding in Portimao. So hopefully Karel Hanneke is a bit calmer, slightly less drama this race.
Like I said, these bikes are so, they don't have much power, so it's all about slipstream for that, that lap time, and they're all looking for a tow. Even in the World Championship, I went to go see them, and it was crazy. Brad Binder came out of the pit lane, and it was like an army right behind him of like 20 riders going right behind him just to get that extra little tow. And every racetrack's different. Aragon has that long, long straightaway, and you could easily gain 2-3 tenths of a second in just a couple slipstreams. And and this is going to be, this is going to be seen in this race for sure. You could be in 7th position and then be 2nd in the next corner just on slipstream.
Exactly. Here is Jeremy Alcoba back in action, part of that Australia Galicia 00 junior team. Obviously, they have a huge structure set up to bring riders through from, even pre-Moto3 right up to the World Championship, right up to MotoGP. So if you are a rider with MotoGP ambitions, which is pretty much every rider, I'm guessing, then that is certainly one of the best teams to be a part of.
Here's a Rins team.
Then Alex Rins, he runs a team here, the 42 Pro Circuito team. Here's Makar Yurchenko, the Russian rider. I believe he's a bit of a confusing rider because sometimes he's listed as Russian and other times he's listed as Kazakhstani.
Wow.
So maybe a bit of a dual passport situation like yourself. But Makar Yurchenko, he's really impressive. He's been in this championship a little bit, also racing in the Red Bull Rookies, but he's getting stronger and stronger and really, really strong. Again, some rumours that maybe even he could move up to the World Championship next year. Here we go through the grid one more time. Raul Fernandez on pole thanks to those penalties. Marcos Ramirez 2nd, Kaito Toba 3rd, Della Porta the championship hopeful 4th, Karel Hanneke 5th, Arenas 6th, Manzi 7th, Sasaki 8th, Bezecchi in 9th. Now, we should say that Della Porta cannot win the championship in this race. He could potentially do it in the 2nd, but we will get to the math of that a little later. Rory Skinner lines up in 10th, ahead of Arbolino, Jared Ryu, Masaki in 13th, Alcoba 14th, Yurchenko 15th, Andy Farrad, the Indonesian rider, in 16th, Dennis Foggia, part of that Rossi team, in 17th, Jaume Messi in 18th place, a bit of a disappointing season for him, Vincent Perez in 19th, Aaron Palenko 20th, Alonso Lopez 21st, Nakaran Akarat Fuvapat in 22nd, Stefano Neffa in 23rd, Davide Pazzoli 24th, Kapler, Florido there. Then Walid Soper, the Dutch
Take a breath, Harry. Take a breath.
28th. Yari Montoya in 29th. Alex Ruiz ahead of Tim Georgie. Gabriel Martinez Abreco, who was wildcarding in Aragon, the Mexican rider, ahead of Hector Garzo. Angel Garcia there as well. Alicia View, who I believe was testing the Peugeot alongside you, ahead of the Italian rider Gindi. Johnny Rotvik, the Swedish rider, ahead of Chandler Cooper, the 40th rider, lining up somewhere in Barcelona based on how big this grid is. Chandler Cooper there, bringing up the rear, the only Australian rider in this Moto3 class. But it is set to be a barnstormer. As I was saying, 31 points separate Della Porta from Ramirez. He needs to leave this whole Jerez weekend with a 51-point advantage over Ramirez, so he cannot do it after this race, because for him to be champion this race, he'll have to leave with 75 points or more, and obviously he can't score over 39 points more because you can only get 25 points for a race victory, so we will have to wait for the 2nd race. But just look at all of those riders. You can guarantee that there's going to be some sort of drama going into that first corner.
This is what's great about this, this race. It's a drama full of, it's what people want to watch. There's always going to be a battle for that podium position. And and you know what's great about this class is you don't know who's gonna win. There's there's no you can't bet on somebody.
No, exactly.
It's so difficult to know.
Exactly. There's so many talents in this team. All of the bikes are so equal as well. Sure, the KTM and the Honda are a bit stronger here, but the Mahindra has a really strong chassis. And we saw in the World Championship, Francesco Bagnaia, he was battling with all of the top guys for victory here. And then add on to that the drama that the Jerez final corner brings into it, where we've seen in the World Championship so many times. We saw here last year in the Sev, Belega and Mir, they sent each other wide at the final corner. So then Albert Arenas just, waved to them basically and said, thank you very much, I'll take this victory. So you really can't be sure what is going to happen. And any of the guys in the top 10 could easily win. And even some guys outside of the top 10, Tony Arbolino, he could do it. Marco Bezzecchi, he could do it. Rory Skinner, he could do it, Kazuki Masaki, he's been really solid all year. Makar Yurchenko, he's crazy enough to maybe put in a big last move. But it is going to be a thrilling 16-lap race here today. 2/3 race distance will be 10 laps, so if there were to be some sort of oil spill, if rain were to suddenly come down from nowhere, then the race would be stopped and that would be declared a result. But hopefully we do get the 16 full laps of drama, because I can guarantee it's going to be a good one. There's number 42, Marcos Ramirez. A lot of pressure on him this race. He needs to finish ahead.
It's crazy how many riders there are. It's so funny. It's great though. I think racing should be like this.
Exactly. This is what we want to see. As I've said, Moto3, be it in the BSB Championship, be it here, be it in the World Championship, it's always some of the best racing because all of these guys are so equal. Here's Raul Fernandez.
Taking his time.
Yep, taking his time. Third, in the Red Bull Rookies Championship. He took 2 victories there. He's, with the same team, the JHK Leglise team as Della Porta. We now do get ready for the lights. They are out, and away we go. A great start there from Kaito Toba and also from Marcos Ramirez. It does look like it will be Kaito Toba who will get the whole shot into turn 1. Is everyone going to make it through turn 1? Okay, a great start from Rory Skinner as well, from 10th up into 5th place there. It looks like everyone has made it through turn 1. Okay, but now it's into that tight turn 2. What will happen there? Some guys sent wide. It looks like Fernandez taking a bit of a different line. Fernandez looking for a way through, but it is Kaito Toba who does still lead ahead of Marcos Ramirez. It looks like Della Porta has slid into 3rd place. No, it is Raul Fernandez in 3rd place. Lorenzo Della Porta in 4th. Rory Skinner 5th. It looks like that's Albert Arenas with Manzi coming up his inside. Huge starts from a lot of guys there. Dennis Foggia, he's right up there as well, but it is Kaito Toba, the Japanese ace, who does lead. Rory Skinner looking for a way. Oh, Rory Skinner on the gravel. And we have gotten through the tyre sheet as well, but here we go through the dry sack corner for the first time. It looks like it is Fernandez who does lead through that first corner, and everyone has opted for the same tyres, medium front and medium rear, as we always say. So it is all equal footing for this lightweight class fest. That it is currently the Husqvarna that leads ahead of a Honda, ahead of a KTM, ahead of the FTR KTM, with then Stefano Manzi looking strong again. Stefano Manzi, 6'2". Just look at the size difference between him and tiny Rory Skinner. But somehow Stefano Manzi manages to tuck himself in on that Mahindra and, just leverage his way through. It is Raul Fernandez at the head of this group. What has happened to Lorenzo Della Porta? It looks like he has been shuffled back a bit, is now behind Stefano Manzi, number 48 there. Marcos Ramirez looking for a way through on Kaito Toba, can't quite do it. Della Porta looking for a way through on Stefano Manzi, again, can't quite do it. Everyone does complete the first lap more or less unscathed. And it is still Raul Fernandez who does lead this race. Marcos Ramirez, again, looking through, but can't get through on Kaito Toba. Toba has this pace to win these races, just hasn't had the consistency, which has dropped him out of championship contention. But right now, this would be pretty good. This would be damage limitations for Lorenzo Della Porta. If he can't win the race, then he certainly doesn't want Marcos Ramirez winning the race. But Ramirez is hugely experienced in this championship. He's been racing in Moto3 for years and years. A couple of guys running off track there, and it looks like Lorenzo Della Porta has now gone past Stefano Manzi. It looks like Sasaki also bullied Manzi out of the way there. So it's chopping and changing. Rory Skinner there just hanging on to these leading 3 riders. Rory Skinner riding really well in the last couple of races, big confidence boost from some good results in the Red Bull Rookies. And look at that,
4 wide.
How many riders across. Carol Haneker trying to get up the inside of Lorenzo Della Porta. That is the last rider I'd want up the inside of me if I was Lorenzo Della Porta.
So the top 4 just created a little gap there, as you can see. Whether they can keep going is always a mystery in this class.
Exactly, that's the thing. You know, if they start fighting amongst each other and those guys behind sort of work together a bit, then even gaps of a second can close up so quickly. There's currently those leading 4 who do have just over a second advantage over the rest of the riders, but that can vanish almost immediately, especially with someone like Sasaki, who's proven to have a very cool head in the Red Bull Rookies Championship. You know, he knows how to close those gaps. He knows what needs to be done. And it looks like Ramirez is going to go. Ramirez shoves it through into the lead, into that last corner. Is Toba going to try something? No, he sits behind Fernandez. Rory Skinner continues to just watch him forth. Now, can Marcos Ramirez create a gap? Ramirez has been in this position so many times, but no, Fernandez just blitzes him out of the corner. Raul Fernandez, absolutely
it's those
tiny.
kilos, you know, I told you, it's such an important factor, the weight in this in this class. And, you know, I think Ramirez is that little tiny kid compared to, is it Fernandez? Or no, sorry, Fernandez is smaller than Ramirez. So it's all about that tucking in too. You know, you could see their riding styles. It's just they're always tucking in 90% of the time, trying to get under that bubble and get that extra speed.
Here we come down onto the back straight. Interesting to see what Fernandez on the fluoro white and dark blue bike can do. Can he slip past Marcos Ramirez on the tealish coloured number 42 bike? It does look like he will move ahead at the dry sack corner. Big move there from Kaito Toba as well. Whoa, Lorenzo Della Porta is getting beaten up here. Dennis Foggia, his fellow Italian, has pushed him right back down. It looks like Lorenzo Della Porta is now in 8th place, so this is an absolute disaster for Lorenzo Della Porta. A great day for Marcos Ramirez. This is exactly what Ramirez needs, exactly what we want as fans to make sure this championship goes down to the last corner in Valencia. But it is still Fernandez. It does seem like, as you're quite rightly saying there, Dakota, that Fernandez is just so strong out of those corners and so strong on those straights because he is so small. And another rider to look for, number 69, Rory Skinner. He's absolutely tiny as well, and that's not what Marcos Ramirez wants. Much like you, Marcos Ramirez spent all of last year riding a 600 and has now lost a lot of weight to come back down for this Moto3 class. He's been doing really well, but you can see that, you know, he still isn't quite as small as some of these guys who are, you know, 15 years old. And it's almost impossible to, when you're 18, 19, to compete against these guys who are still growing. Big move there from Rory Skinner to try and get through to third. Bit of touching there with Kaito Toba. That's what we like to see, but it does look like Skinner has managed to muscle his way ahead. But Kaito Toba looking to respond all the while.
Really? There's that turn 2. There's so many people at high side out of there because it's so easy to get on the gas early to try to get a good drive for turn 3 and 4. And you know, it's funny. You think they're gonna, the group's gonna, you know, gap, but it really doesn't.
All the while, Karel Hanneke has been doing exceedingly well here. There we can see a 147.7. He's now well and truly with this leading group. He's brought Ayumi Sasaki with him as well. So now 6 riders in this group, and it looks like Della Porta has now managed to regain some composure. Karel Hanneke looking for a way through, and Rory Skinner, he does manage to just muscle his way through, as we can see there. Karel Hanneke living up to his
reputation.
reputation.
Always a little nervous when he passes people, but
yeah, if I were racing with Karel Hanneke, I'd maybe give him a foot or two, because he's definitely going to try and push it through no matter what happens. So some updates for you. It looks like, unfortunately, Marco Bezzecchi, the Mahindra rider, has had a bit of a disastrous start. He's down in 40th place behind Chandler Cooper. So no doubt some issues for him there. But the top 10 are Fernandez in first, Ramirez second, Toba, Skinner, Hanneke, Sasaki, Della Porta, Foggia, Arenas, and then Stefano Manzi in 10th. So Arenas currently the leading Mahindra in 9th place there, and just off the back of this group. Kaito Toba sliding up the inside of Ramirez again. Can Ramirez? No. Kaito Toba keeps the door nice and closed. Exactly what you'd want in the last lap.
Personally, you know, I don't think they're trying to gap. They're just having a good time. You know, they're just having fun, messing around with each other. And, as you can see, there's so many passes. You see 3 wide in a corner. It's like,
and here we
it's
go.
racing.
Rory Skinner.
This is what racing's all about.
Exactly. As you say, this is exactly what racing's all about. Look, Ramirez has gone from leading that group to now he's right at the back of that group. And now who is that ahead? Now it looks like it's Kaito Toba again in the lead of that group. Raul Fernandez ahead once more. Della Porta working hard to try and close down the gap to this group. And it looks like Karel Hanneke has managed to muscle his way back up into third place once again, with Rory Skinner just behind him.
I'm not even racing, I'm nervous. I don't understand why.
Big move there from Marcos Ramirez. Doesn't quite get up the inside of Skinner. It is Raul Fernandez who holds his own through the dry sack corner. Yep, it looks like Della Porta is now well and truly with that group, and he has brought Dennis Foggia and Stefano Manzi and Toby
Group of 8
Arnolino.
now.
Yeah,
you know.
look at them all. There's a huge train of riders. It looks like all of the top 10 are more or less within touching distance of each other. 12 laps still to go. Absolutely grade A racing here today for you in Jerez in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. And it is Karel Hanneke who does lead, the Red Bull Rookie Champion, one of the most dominant Red Bull rookies ever. He had a bit of a fall from grace, crashed just too much, but now he's taken one step down to come to the SEV Moto3 to show that he is still a contender to hopefully look for a competitive ride next year. And look at that, just so many different lines into this final corner. 2 riders abreast, 3 riders abreast, all down onto this long start finish straight here. Raul Fernandez pulling out of the slipstream early to try and make a move on Kaito Toba. Can't quite do it. No major changes at the front, but behind it looks like Arenas has now joined this group as well. So we now have, what's that? We now have 12 riders all battling for the lead at the front. Nothing to choose between these 12 guys. Kaito Toba doing really well. Kaito Toba looking to grab a third place in this championship. As we said, mathematically he could still win it. 96 points behind, but it would be a tall order for him to claim victory in this championship. A couple of crashes is ruling him out of championship contention, but you know, a win would certainly do his world championship ambitions a world of good. Here's Ramirez, big move there. Can't quite get it through.
I think one of the best races I've ever seen in Moto3 has to be Mugello this year in the World Championship. I think there was a group of 22 riders, you know, for the win. And you could, like I said, you could be in 15th position and literally be third in turn 1 on that long, you know, famous Mugello straightaway.
Exactly, and there you can see riders all over the place using all of the circuit. This Jerez circuit is 11 meters wide, so a pretty wide circuit overall. It is still Hanneke in control of this group, but just look down behind. You have guys like Manzi, who's shown what he can do on the World Championship level. You have guys like Roy Skinner, super young, super light, just waiting. Then you have Lorenzo Della Porta, who's, you know, looking to cement his championship challenge here. We have Raul Fernandez up the inside of Karel Hanneke through that Jorge Lorenzo corner, turn 13, back into the lead for him, but still 10 laps to go.
Likes leading that race.
He does. He really likes being in control, but with 10 laps to go, you know, as you were saying earlier, all of these guys are basically just playing with each other. So
just having a good time, and it's going to be the last laps where it's all going to be luck. Also plays out, you know, but it's all going to be where you're at in what moment. And like I said, you won't be able to know who's going to, you know, win or be on that podium till that last corner.
Exactly, and look, all of those top 11 do have a pretty, those top 12, sorry, all do have a pretty decent gap to those behind inside that top 12. Anything could still happen. Marcos Ramirez now has his title rival, Lorenzo Della Porta, breathing down his neck. Marcos Ramirez really needs to get at least a podium finish here, if not a victory, with Della Porta hopefully a couple of spaces behind. Oh, Kaito Toba, a big slide there, and he goes down and pushes Karel Hanneke wide. There's payback for his teammates in Portugal, but that is now race challenge over for both of those riders. Karel Hanneke does well to stand up, but there we can see Kaito Toba got in there just a bit too hot, tried to stop it, but then it all just went a bit sideways from him, more way than one. Disaster for the Japanese rider. But that's been the story of his season. So much has been challenging for the victory, gone for that overly ambitious move.
And those corners are, you know, the hardest brake markers of the whole racetrack, and it's so easy to break that extra too deep and you know, run into somebody. I've seen it all, you know, everyone's seen it. Here's a replay.
Here we have it again. Watch him just behind Hanneke. Look, he tries to move, bike gets sideways, then he can't stop it. Karel Hanneke's in his way. And
Great save by Hanneke, if you think about it.
Yeah, it was very ambitious. There is Alberto Puig, the mentor to that Asia talent team. Alberto Puig brought through such talents as Danny Pedrosa and Casey Stoner. Kaido Toba looking distraught, and understandably so. That was a pretty dire mistake to make. You know, we're at the last lap, last corner. I can understand, but pretty big mistake. Meanwhile, we have had some changes. It is Fernandez who does lead ahead of his teammate Della Porta. Looks like a bit of a twitch there for, I think, Stefano Manzi. Then a great ride from Dennis Foggia as well. We haven't really seen much of Dennis Foggia after his absolutely stellar start to the year. Dennis Foggia is currently 11th. He was obviously second in Valencia, but then has really struggled to even get inside the top 10. But here we go, the two championship rivals, number 42 and number 48 together. Ramirez, big move there into dry sack corner. No such issues as with Toba before. Everyone gets through there nice and clean on this lap. Watch out for Stefano Manzi, number 62 on the red and white Mahindra. He is, I was speaking to some of the World Championship riders after his ride from 34th to 4th, and nut job and mental case were some of the adjectives they used to describe Stefano Manzi as he slips up through into third. And you can just see how big Stefano Manzi is compared to guys like Della Porta and even Ramirez. And, you know, if it does come to two bikes colliding, size can help a bit.
Talking about, you know, that VR46, that whole, you know, riding academy.
Speaking of, big move there from Dennis Foggia on the VR46 bike. Manages to keep it upright. Had to call on a bit of his Rossi flat track training there as the bike got a little sideways.
That's what I was going to say. You know, Rossi's done so well on doing this for all these Italian riders because, you know, it's even good for Rossi. I'm telling you, I've seen his riding style. It's changed. You know, he's constantly, you know, riding with all these young, crazy young riders, and they're always bumping into each other and sliding the bike. And even when they go to Misano and ride the thousands, it's great training for them. And you know, it's a disadvantage for many, you know, other Spanish riders that don't get a chance to ride every day at a dirt track like Rossi's ranch. And this is why we're seeing so many more and more quicker VR46 riders, Italian young riders.
Yeah, certainly. There is Lorenzo Della Porta. Della Porta not part of the VR46 Academy yet, but does ride for the VR46 team in Moto3, obviously stepping in to replace Romano Fenati, who had some dramas with the team earlier in the year. And just behind him is the newest addition to the VR46 Academy, number 62, Stefano Manzi. Oh, a big move there to slide through on Della Porta. Now right behind Marcos Ramirez on the Mahindra. It is KTM versus Mahindra. KTM, FGR, KTM there for Rory Skinner. Rory Skinner doing really well to stick with these leading groups. This is exactly what Rory Skinner needed, you know. Battle with these guys. Rory Skinner, he's still too young for World Championships, so he'll definitely be in at least the Red Bull Rookies Cup next year, and he is definitely one to watch for a title charge there. And he could very well be in contention. It looks like the top 6 or so have now made a bit of a gap. Here comes Della Porta, tries to get it through on Manzi, can't quite, but does slide up the inside of Rory Skinner there.
7 laps.
Big move there from Dennis Foggia, again back up the inside of Stefano Manzi. It is all getting nice and tight up at the front. And this is when things really start to matter. This is when guys are, look, it looks like Ramirez is trying to start a bit of a break now. Still can't quite do it. He's opened up a bit of space. What's that? Quarter of a second almost for Ramirez. Can Della Porta close that gap, or is this the break that Ramirez needs? Down the straight, this is when Della Porta's size will work to his advantage. He'll have a tiny bit of a slipstream. Nothing in a dry sack corner. Some big moves there from Raul Fernandez behind. Can't quite do it. Dennis Foggia holding strong in third place ahead of Stefano Manzi. Tony Arbolino doing very, very well as well. The Italian currently in 6th place, that looks to be. Raul Fernandez trying to get through on Rory Skinner, can't quite do it.
We're on the mid 48s. constantly.
Yep, all messing each other up with these very ambitious moves here. But unfortunately for Marcos Ramirez, they're not quite messing up Lorenzo Della Porta, which is really what Ramirez wants, as we said. So he's currently 31 points behind. There is Mahindra Racing's sporting director there. He's obviously here scouting out some new talent for next year. Or another big move from Foggia. Della Porta manages to close the door. So no changes there at the front. Big move from Dennis Foggia to go from third into first. What a move, but then runs it wide. It looks like Della Porta will gain the advantage out of all of them. He does. He leads through turn 2. Marcos Ramirez gets shuffled from first back to third. He now does have 2 Italians ahead of him.
The racetrack's actually done great to take all that grass off the, you know, the extra bit of tarmac they have out there, because, you know, especially on this class, you're always really close to that outside curve, and when the grass was out there, there was always these gnarly crashes. And I understand that in qualifying, you know, I think they take your lap time away if you use it, but it is actually safer for us riders.
Looking for a way through, can't quite do it. But now look, all of these top all of the top 9 have again closed up right together. So even just those couple of corners of battling, there's one of the VR46 mechanics looking on as number 71, Dennis Foggia. They're doing exceedingly well to battle with the experienced Marcos Ramirez, who does slide through back up into second place. It's still anyone's race. Ayumi Sasaki there, number 33. Alberto Arenas in 8th position. Tony Arbolino on the 58 Squadra Corsa bike doing exceedingly well as well to just hang on here. You know, there can be so much drama. People's ambition can outweigh their talent, as Casey Stoner famously said at this circuit. So sometimes it can be best just to sit and wait, because all of these guys are quite young. Big move there from Dennis Foggia. He loves getting that
using
leg
that
out.
really, you know, rear brake a lot.
And real flat track style with how he sticks his leg out and just his positioning on the bike.
You know, I was talking to Brad before my test because I really needed some pointers on that thing, and he was telling me that he really uses that rear brake a lot.
Yeah.
He uses that rear brake all the way into, even right before he touches the throttle. And he says that's where, not really a secret, but maybe where his talent is. He can use that rear brake incredibly strong, and that's when you see, you know, them riders backing it in, and
it is now Della Porta who has seized the lead, and a bit of an advantage, again, about a quarter of a second. So not a huge gap, but just enough. And
but then again, there's that straightaway, and they'll, you know,
close it
regroup
right back up.
You know, the group's just gonna come back together.
Ramirez is so strong on the brakes, especially in this dry sack corner, but so is Fernandez.
Arenas is getting there.
Fernandez leaves it nice and late. Yeah, as you say, Arenas, he's now picking up speed every single corner, getting closer and closer. Dennis Foggia, number 2, the Italian, they're taking over for Nicolo Bullega on that championship winning team. And there's Ramirez on the Leopard Stratos bike. Obviously, Leopard, a direct connection with the Leopard team in the Moto3 and Moto2 World Championships. Ramirez, interestingly enough, doesn't yet, to my knowledge, have a ride for the World Championship next year. And if I were a team owner of Moto2, I'd definitely be looking at Ramirez.
Oh.
You know, he's maybe a bit too big for these Moto3 bikes, but he's seriously talented and has a huge amount of experience as well. So hopefully he can sort something out. But right now it is all about sorting out this final corner. Here comes Dennis Foggia. Once again, every single corner he does try something. Looks like Stefano Manzi got shuffled around a bit as well. Dennis Foggia is definitely going to try something on that last lap.
You know, 4 laps ago, these kids are hungry. They're hungry, you know, for that first, second, third place. And
Dennis Foggia takes the lead.
And this is where it kind of becomes sketchy, you know. All these...
Oh, especially with guys like Foggia, it's his rookie season.
He's a deep breaker, I can tell.
And he has everything to prove and not very much to lose, which is probably pretty worrying if your name is Ramirez or Della Porta and you have a championship on the line. Because, you know, we've seen so many times before, you know, Quartararo last year in the Moto3 race, this year in the Moto3 race with Bullega. Lager, with Mir, with Bagnaia. All three of those guys were so deep on the brakes in that last corner. It was all a bit wide, all a bit loose and goosey, and all a bit wild. So, again, this dry sack corner, such a good place for overtaking as Raul Fernandez slides up into second place. Oh, big crash there for Rory Skinner. Oh, his head just gets clipped by number 33. Luckily, Rory Skinner is okay, but it does look like he has pushed off Tony Arbolino. Disaster for Rory Skinner.
He looks so he's like
doing so well. Looks
like he's okay.
Bit battered and bruised.
Got a little bit too hard on the acceleration.
Yeah,
just you
flipped
know, it's
himself
simple.
off.
Unfortunately, he did save it.
Yeah. Lucky to avoid any major contact. Obviously, his head did just get tapped by Sasaki, so no doubt he's going to have a bit of a sore head. But
it's unfortunate. He was doing such a great job. You know, he was always in the top 5 the whole race, and
and it has also broken up that group a little bit as well. Now the likes of Masaki and Sasaki have broken away, so it is really these guys here. Oh, there's Foggia trying something as well.
Every time I hit brakes into that last corner, I'm scared. He's going to collect like 3 of them, so.
Just wait till the final lap. We do have 3 laps to go, so it is starting to
If he's in the front, my bet's going to be he's going to go in there and win the race. There you go.
I reckon it could be win it or bin it. It's a very fine line.
Let's just hope he does it clean.
Yeah, exactly.
There goes Arenas. Arenas is kind of looks like a ghost rider, you know? He kind of isn't there, but he is. And he's in riders where, you know, what counts is the last lap. And
exactly. And that was definitely the story of Arenas' championship last year, was that he was, you know, 5th, 4th. Then towards the end of the season started to get podiums. Then suddenly we arrived in Valencia and he was a serious title threat. I mean, I don't think he's mathematically not in title contention as he is 8th overall. But, you know, if he keeps nice and steady, he could very well get himself on the podium for the 2nd time this season. Maybe even a victory, depending on how these 4
Let's
KTMs
hope this lap rider can, you know.
Yes, that is number 24, Chandler Cooper, the Australian on the Calex KTM. This is Chandler Cooper's first season racing on the roads, so a pretty big step to come to the Spanish Championship. It does look like he's going to play a bit of a part there. Some of the riders getting...
Where's that blue flag?
Getting pushed around. Great for Ramirez because he will up Della Porta throwing up a hand of... Okay, it does look like Chandler Cooper has now sat up, but definitely Della Porta there. He's been pushed down. He's now in, 5th place. Arenas has benefited a bit from that. Foggia, he's still in 3rd place. Raul Fernandez, he's in 2nd. He does make a big move into the Jorge Lorenzo corner, does now lead, but it will be Marcus Ramirez who cuts back up the inside. Bit of a dress rehearsal for the last lap. Who knows? Anything could happen out of these top riders.
2 laps to go.
And then look at the massive group further behind them. Guys like Jaume Masia, Vincent Perez, Jared Reed, Tony Arbolino now, Aaron Polenko, Makayachenko, all battling for the top 10 as well. Dennis Foggia looking up the inside again. Any of these top 6 could still do it. It's all so close. And here is Chandler Cooper playing his own special part in this race. He's a bit wide and closes the door on Ramirez. You know, all of those guys have to sit up. Then Manzi has a bit of a moment. There you can see the Legalese team looking on. Lorenzo Della Porta's father there on the right in the Dionysi shirt. He's a very nervous man during the races, as he would be. Here we go into the dry sack corner. Dennis Foggia up the inside of Della Porta, but Della Porta carries around the outside. No issues there. Both those Mahindras just sitting and waiting. Della Porta and his fellow Italian there.
Marcos is putting his head down now.
Yeah, and Ramirez is pushing really hard, and this is exactly what Ramirez needs. Now, the big question is, have the Legalese team had a word to Fernandez and said, look, ride a bit smart. If you can help out Della Porta, do it. You know, will there be some team riding here, or is Fernandez just out to do himself as best he can? You know, Fernandez got his first podium last time out in Aragon. He's potentially on for his first ever 2nd place finish, his best finish in the Sev. Would he potentially concede a place to his teammate for those overall team ambitions of glory? I'm not so sure if the gap stays like this. He'd have to slow down a big way. Here comes Dennis Foggia though. That last corner is making me very nervous as they wind up.
Heart's about to pop out of my chest here.
Yep, and last lap. Last lap, there's the Leopard team grilling on Marcos Ramirez. As they say, a 0.3 of a second gap. That's decent. That could be just enough to avoid any drama behind him. But what can Della Porta do? The number 48 currently in third place. Can he close it? Then here is Arenas leading Mans both on the Mahindra there. Looking to try and get past Dennis Foggia. There can be no mistakes from those leaders.
Top three are pulling away now.
Yep, exactly, they do. They have a pretty sizable gap. It looks like it will be Foggia battling these guys for fourth place. Oh, nice and tight there. Arenas looking for a way through. Can't quite do it. Mans as well, with his big frame there, just looking for a way past.
Fernandez could actually help the Laporta a bit here.
Della Porta got through on his teammate there. Fernandez, will Fernandez
That's going to give Ramirez a little extra gap now.
Yep. But the other thing is that Ramirez will only be opening up 5 points on Della Porta, which will reduce the gap to 26 points. So it would
Arenas
still
is fourth now.
On. Yep, Arenas doing very well as well. It looks like Fernandez is definitely not giving up second place without a fight.
I can see.
He's definitely making his teammate work for it, which is great news, as you were saying, for Marcos Ramirez, as his gap is now over a second. So it looks like, unless there is some big drama for him, that he will win this race without too many hassles. It is currently Della Porta. Stefano Manzi taking to the grass there. Looks like he got forced wide. And here we go through the final corner. Dennis Foggia comes up the inside of Alberto Arenas. Some drama there. And here come the two Asia Talent Team bikes with Stefano Manzi. Not quite sure what's happening there, but it will be Marcos Ramirez who takes another victory. That is his 4th victory of the season. A great result for this.
Great ride by Ramirez. The last 2 laps.
Yep, closes down 5 points on Lorenzo Della Porta. Then Raul Fernandez on the podium for the second time, ahead of Dennis Foggia. It looks like he beat out Albert Arenas in the drag to the line there. Then it was Kazuki Masaki who took 6th place ahead of Ayumi Sasaki, with Stefano Manzi dropping to 8th after his slight drama with going off track there. Then Jaume Masia in 9th place, Tony Arbolino 10th out of Vincent Perez, Aaron Palenko in 12th, Nakar Yurchenko in 13th, 14th for Jeremy Alcoba, Nakar and Adarak Vuvapat scores a single point in 15th place. Carol Haneke did really well to recover to 17th after getting knocked off early in the race. So there we go. And then Chandler Cooper, the rider we saw, having a bit of an effect on the race. He brings up the rear in 37th place. Alicia View, the Red Bull rookie, 2nd in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. He was the leading production Moto3 machine. There we see 2 Red Bull Rookies competitors, Fernandez and Sasaki there, congratulating each other. Fernandez, another guy to watch. Not sure he'll move up to the World Championship next year, but definitely a title favourite for this Moto3 Junior World Championship next year. But what can Ramirez do? He is now 26 points behind Della Porta, and there are still 75 points up for grabs. He can definitely make the title go down to Valencia, but can he make up any serious inroads in the second race later today? The second Moto3 race will be our last race of the day. That will be at 3 p.m. local time. The grid will be all different again. As we said, there were some penalties at the start of this race for going slow, and for, in Carol Haneke's case, some dangerous riding in the previous race. But who knows what will happen later today. Dakota is just getting ready to go talk to that man there, Marcos Ramirez, who will no doubt also be able to give us an interview in English, because he has been practicing in the World Championship with great results for Ramirez and for that Leopard team. And here we go through the race standings once more in all their glory. It was Marcos Ramirez who took the victory ahead of Lorenzo Della Porta, Raul Fernandez in 3rd place, Dennis Foggia just getting 3rd ahead of Arenas, Masaki, Sasaki, Manzi 8th, and Jaume Masia back in the top 10. Masia having a bit of a rough season. Really thought he would be having a much stronger season, and he's also the leading Australia Galicia bike, which is not really what we'd expect from a World Championship level team to only be able to cross the line in 9th place. Just a bit disappointing after Aaron Canet fought the entire season for that championship last year. Then in 10th place was Tony Arbolino, who suffered a bit when Rory Skinner had that crash ahead of Vincent Perez on the KTM. Aaron Palenko 12th on the Mahindra. Nakar Yurchenko, part of that Rins team, 13th. Jeremy Alcoba 14th. Nakar and Adarat Vuvapat 15th ahead of Jared Ryu in 16th. Carol Haneke 17th. Stefano Nepa in 18th. And there is the man of the moment, Marcos Ramirez, first on his Dunlop cap, because he has won yet another race. That is his 4th race victory of the year. He is now level on race wins with Lorenzo Della Porta. And obviously race wins do play a role in the math of the championship, because were they to end the year tied on points, it would be whoever has the most race victories. And here we go. Looks like we have some penalties actually. Number 10 has had a penalty, as has number 11, and as had number 44. So that's Filippo Fellini, Albert Arenas, interestingly enough, who did finish in 5th, and then number 44, Tony Arbolino. He also has a penalty, 5 seconds added to their times for exceeding track limit on multiple times. More on that after we have a chat to Marcos Ramirez down in Parc Fermé.
Marco, good race, and looked like there was a good battle.
The race was very hard because it's hot. In the first part of the race I pushed hard, but there is a big group, and I push hard the last 2 laps, and I can pull away a little bit, and I win. I want to repeat this the next race, and thank you to the team, to all the people to see here me.
Ramírez, primera posición, una carrera bastante con muchas peleas. ¿Cómo te has sentido?
Bueno, la verdad es que la carrera ha sido muy dura por la calor, y he intentado tirar fuerte, pero no me he podido ir. Hemos sido un grupo grande con mucha pelea, y a falta de pocas vueltas para el final he tirado fuerte y he podido abrir un hueco por el que he podido ganar. Dar las gracias al equipo y a todos los que han venido aquí a verme, y espero que después pueda repetir lo mismo.
And there we go, always insightful from Ramirez, you know, getting those media lessons from the World Championship. And here we have the race 1 highlights. As we said, there will be a second race here today. But it was Kaito Toba who did grab the whole shot off the start. Some great action through those first couple of corners. Rory Skinner there, number 69, having to take to the grass. That's how close the racing is here, really using all of the track and more. Marcos Ramirez, big moves from him, big moves always into that last corner, turn 13. And here we have the other big hotspot, the dry sack corner, turn 6. Karel Hanneke, he was hyper aggressive through there the entire race. And here we can see there was an absolutely massive group battling for most of the race. Of course, there were some incidents, especially towards the end of the race, that did break that up. Karel Hanneke had his turn at leading, but it was Raul Fernandez. Raul Fernandez really, really impressive throughout this whole championship. And there we go, Kaito Toba, just way too aggressive, way too ambitious. Crashed himself, obviously, and then also forced Karel Hanneke off. But that then split up the group a tiny bit at the front. Stefano Manzi, again, looking so strong on that Mahindra, but it was Lorenzo Della Porta and Dennis Foggia and Marcos Ramirez who spent the majority of the race battling amongst themselves for victory. Of course, they were joined quite frequently by all those guys behind, because in Moto3, the one thing that you can be sure of is that it's going to go down to the final lap, and it certainly did. There's Rory Skinner, unfortunately crashing out, getting his head just clipped a bit there by Sasaki. Luckily, no serious injuries, it doesn't look like, for Rory Skinner, but that did break up the group a fair bit. And thanks to that, it was 6 riders battling for victory. Chandler Cooper, one of the back markers, he played a bit of a role in the race, did eventually get out of the way though, which was lucky. It was Marcos Ramirez who crossed the line quite comfortably ahead, almost a second ahead of Lorenzo Della Porta in second. So he does close up 5 points in that all-important championship battle. And as such, he is now 26 points behind Lorenzo Della Porta in that championship standing. And here we go, onto the podium. Once again, it is Ramirez, Della Porta, and Fernandez. And then we have Alish Yu there as the leading production Honda as well. Once again, there is another subclass. They are all running on a standard Honda Moto3 machines. So that's why there are 4 riders on the podium there. Of course, there is also a fair amount of fizzy water, because unfortunately for them, not everyone on the podium is over 18. So, of course, we do have to obey the drinking laws. So just fizzy water for Fernandez and Alish Yu. But, you know, that's the other incredible thing, is when you see riders up there on the podium, who aren't even old enough to legally drink. It does put it all into perspective.
We even see that in the World Championship now. It's just funny to see how you get this one rider with the big champagne bottle and then
the other guy having to empty out his
or Red
bottle.
Bull, or I've seen it with Red Bulls or Monsters, but it just shows how how young these riders actually are.
Yeah,
and talented. So.
And there you can see just how small they are. Look at Lorenzo Della Porta there on the left. Absolutely tiny. I mean, Marcos Ramirez he's not a big dude, but for this Moto3 class, he's pretty sizable. And he is, as you say, he's up against these guys who are literally kids, or certainly the size of kids in the case of Della Porta. And Fernandez ecstatic there to be on the podium yet again. A great race from him. And another one of those names to keep watching for the future.
Lorenzo Della Porta, segundo clasificado en la carrera, primero en la clasificación general.
Della Porta not looking too pleased overall with that. Definitely not as excited as his teammate was with that moment there.
I think he knows that he got beat by Ramirez. Like I said, it's not a nice feeling. Your rival in the championship. Fast, and what's the point separation now?
26 points.
Okay, so
for someone to be champion, they would have to leave here with a 50-point advantage. So Della Porta could, in theory, do it if Ramirez fails to score, but it's going to be tough because even if Ramirez fails to score, there's a lot of guys there.
Yeah.
But anyway, now it is almost time. We've had the novelty fuel check, so now it's time for the Spanish national anthem for the second time today.
Fuerte el aplauso para los componentes del podium, protagonistas de la primera carrera de Moto3.
Another excellent podium there, another excellent Moto3 race. As we said, we will be having a second Moto3 race a little later today at 3 p.m. local time. So be sure to join us for that one. That is in about 3 hours time. Time for a quick photo there.
Della Porta is so small.
Yeah.
Marcos, hay algo que celebrar,
absolutely tiny, but that's what you really want and really need from a Moto3 rider.
Definitely.
And here are those all-important championship standings. Time to check if my math was right. Yes, it was. 26 points separate them. So it is now only those two riders. Kaito Toba is now mathematically out of championship contention, but he now has to worry about Raul Fernandez and even his teammate Ayumi Sasaki for closing him in for that championship. For that third in the championship, Alberto Arenas in 6th ahead of Masaki, Alonso Lopez 8th, Dennis Foggia doing pretty well in 9th, collecting some pretty solid points, but look at those big point gaps between 1st, 2nd and then 3rd. Huge gaps there. Jeremy Alcoba in 10th ahead of Stefano Manzi. Tony Arbolino doing pretty okay in 12th, Maka Yachenko 13th, João Macia ahead of Nakran Adarat Fuvapat, Marco Bezecchi ahead of Aaron Palenko and Enzo Boulon. Boulon not here this weekend, although there are some rumours that maybe he'll be riding in the World Championship in a little bit. Jared Ryu ahead of John McPhee. McPhee did a couple of wild cards. Carol Haneke there. Haneke's had a bit of a tough time since returning. Lots of crashes for him, unfortunately. Ahead of Ruiz Florido, another Red Bull rookie, Davide Pozzoli, and then Maximilian Kapler, Filippo Sark, Filippo Follini, and then Rory Skinner. We've seen how quick Rory Skinner is, but there's just so many crashes for him, and that's why he only has a single point. He clearly has the pace battle for the podium, but like so many young riders, just can't keep it upright, which is a huge disappointment for Skinner. But, the talent is definitely there. What's that they say you can